Hello, my freaky darlings. Welcome back. This week, I'm investigating the Flannan Isles mystery and the disappearance of the three lighthouse keepers. So, on the evening of the 15th of December, 1900, the transatlantic steamer Arctur, on its voyage to the port of Leith from Philadelphia, passed the lighthouse on Flannan Isles in the Outer Hebrides off the west coast of Scotland. The crew noticed that its light was off. So after docking in Leith 3 days later, the news was passed on to the Northern Lighthouse Board that something was wrong on Flannan. The board dispatched the lighthouse relief tender ship Hesperus to investigate. Arriving at the island on Boxing Day, the ship's captain, Jim Harvey, sounded his horn and sent up a flare, hoping to alert the three lighthouse keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and William MacArthur. But they didn't respond. So, disembarking from the Hesperus, relief lighthouse keeper Joseph Moore set up on a climb up the 160 steep steps to the lighthouse. Yeah, that's quite a climb. Not sure I'd make that, but anyway. Reaching the lighthouse compound and entering the living quarters, Joseph Moore noticed that the clock on the kitchen wall had stopped, the table was set for a meal that had never been eaten, and a chair had been toppled over. A canary in a cage was the only sign of life. Returning to the eastern landing, Joseph reported his findings to the captain of the Hesperus, so Jim Harvey sent another 2 sailors to shore, and they and Joseph Moore began looking for signs of life. After a thorough search of the lighthouse complex turned up nothing but a set of oilskins, which suggested one of the keepers had ventured out in just his shirt and probably his pants, I'm guessing. The search party then turned their attention to the landing platform on the west side of the island, where they found plenty of evidence that the island had recently been hit by a massive storm. A supply box had been smashed open and its contents strewn across the ground, despite being over 100 feet above sea level. Iron railings on the side of a path had been bent and twisted out of shape. Part of a railway track had been torn from its concrete moorings, and a huge rock weighing more than a ton had been displaced. Grass had also been ripped off from the tops of the cliffs 200 feet above sea level. There was no sign of James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, or William MacArthur. Jim Harvey sent a telegram to the Northern Lighthouse Board after the Hesperus returned to the port saying, "Poor fellows, they must have been blown over the cliffs or drowned trying to secure a crane," or something like that. He also left Joseph Moore and 3 sailors behind to tend to the lighthouse and continue the search. They scoured the island for the 3 missing men, but found nothing. On the 29th of December, Robert Moorhead, the board superintendent, arrived on the island and began an investigation into the keeper's disappearance. He knew all 3 of the missing men well. Examining the oilskin that had been left behind, he concluded it belonged to William MacArthur. After going over the wreckage on the western landing, Robert Moorhead speculated that Marshall and Duckett must have headed out into the storm to try and secure the equipment stored there. When they didn't return, he believed that William MacArthur must have ventured out to try to find them. Okay, but that doesn't explain the toppled chair in the dining room. I mean, did MacArthur just kind of get up in such a rush when they didn't get back, that he knocked it over, or... But anyway, so Robert Moorhead stated in his official report, "From evidence which I was able to procure, I was satisfied that the men had been on duty up till dinner time on Saturday the 15th of December, that they had gone down to secure a box in which the mooring ropes, landing ropes, etc. were kept, and which was secured in a crevice in the rock about 110 feet, 34 meters, above sea level, and that an extra large sea had rushed up the face of the rock and gone above them, coming down with immense force, and swept them completely away." But as far as the public was concerned, his report wasn't the end of the story. Rather interesting stories began doing the rounds, such as the men being gobbled up by a giant sea serpent or whisked away by a huge seabird. One theory had the men leave the island by boat to escape deaths, while another had them spirited away by the skeletal crew of a ghost ship. Some people even thought that the men had been kidnapped by foreign spies. Yeah, I shit you not. People came up with some seriously crazy shit. Conspiracy theories. Ish. Anyway, even more doubt was cast on the official investigation with the emergence of a logbook supposedly containing several baffling entries between the 12th and 15th of December. In the first entry, Thomas Marshall supposedly wrote that a great storm the likes of which he had never seen before had hit the island. He continued that James Ducat was unusually quiet when the storm hit, and William MacArthur, who was apparently a big, burly man not known to have much of a sensitive side, was weeping. A second entry has all three men praying in the eye of the monstrous storm, and a third and final entry, supposedly written on the 15th, states that the storm had passed and all was now calm. Upon hearing about the existence of these logbook entries, many questioned the idea that the men had been swept out to sea. If anyone had died, surely whoever wrote the 15th of December entry would have mentioned this. So there had to be another explanation, right? And guess what the explanation turned out to be? You guessed it, they were fake. The logbook entries were inserted into the story several years after the three men disappeared. So, dismissing both the fake logbook entries and the batshit stories of sea serpents and ghost ships, three theories emerged over the years that try to explain their disappearances in a more kind of logical sort of way. The first is based on the character of William MacArthur. William was, by all accounts, a bit of a dick who was quick to settle an argument with his fists. It's been speculated that he could have started a fight up on the western landing, which led to all three men falling to their deaths from the cliffs. The second theory is that one of the men, again, probably William MacArthur, murdered the other two, ditched their bodies into the sea, and then threw himself off the cliffs. Well, both theories add a level of bloodthirsty juiciness to the mystery. There is no evidence that a fight or a murder took place, except for that toppled over chair, but that's not really enough to prove that any kind of violent crime took place. And without bodies or a crime scene to examine, these two theories are probably wrong. A more plausible explanation is that Thomas Marshall and James Ducat were swept away while trying to secure the supplies and equipment on the West Landing. When his colleagues failed to return, William MacArthur headed out to find them and was also killed in the storm. Why anyone would head out into that kind of storm when they could have stayed safe in the lighthouse can be explained by the fact that Thomas Marshall had previously been fined 5 shillings for losing his equipment in a previous gale. And as a family man, losing 5 shillings in 1900 was rather disastrous when you have a family to feed. So it's not surprising that if securing equipment was more important to him than his personal safety. To this day, no one knows what happened to those 3 men. Yeah, I sure as shit don't. What do you think happened? Were they swept away by the storm? Or did William MacArthur kill them, only to be swept away by a rogue wave? Or did aliens get them? Or that sea monster? Or that ghost ship? Anyway, that's it for this week. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share it with people who are also fascinated by some weird shit like haunted places, urban legends, unsolved mysteries, conspiracy theories, serial killers, mythical creatures, ghosts, and other things that go bump in the night. Thanks for watching. Till next time, stay safe and stay healthy, and if you find yourself in a lighthouse during a hectic storm, whatever you do, don't go traipsing around on the island. Stay inside, where it's safe. Be smart. Yeah. Anyway, bye.